Come this way, leave everything, jump and slide, either side, folks.
Breaking here at noon, new video from inside a Delta Airlines plane just moments after it had to make an emergency landing without its front landing gear. This all unfolded at Charlotte Douglas International Airport this morning, and we have all angles of this story covered for you this afternoon. We're going to start with Queen City News anchor Robin Kennedy, who's live near the runway where that plane had to land. So, Robin, what are we learning about how this happened?
Annie, you could see a live picture right now of runway 36. It is shut down at Charlotte Douglas International Airport as that plane is still on the runway. No word on when this runway is going to open back up, and they have to get that plane off and remove it. Now, we have seen in the last several minutes some crews come in and possibly being offloading the baggage from the passengers onto the plane. Our view's a little blocked on that, but we think that might be what some of the crews are doing right now. The Boeing 717 made an emergency landing without its nose gear at Charlotte Douglas right around 8:40 this morning. You can still see that plane on the runway. The nose looks like it is dipped down on the runway right now. This was Delta Flight 1092. It took off out of Atlanta this morning. It circled Charlotte Douglas several times before making that landing. And again, runway 36 still shut down. This happened around 8:40 this morning, and officials tweeting out that the plane had mechanical issues. Now, it appears the nose gear did not come down, and based off of some air traffic control audio that we just got in and we'll be sharing with you in about the next half hour or so, it appears like that the pilots did know that there was some kind of issue before landing with the nose gear, and they radioed to the tower related to that. So we will have more on that coming up in just about half an hour, and we are waiting right now for the removal of this plane from the runway here at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. I'm live at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. Robin Kennedy, Queen City News.
All right, Robin, a great vantage point there. And as you can imagine, this is impacting operations at the airport. So travelers who are there already or who have flights today should expect some delays because, as Robin mentioned, that runway where the plane is sitting is still closed and no word on a timeline for removing it. Crews are working on it, though. This is a live look at the flight board where it looks like all these American Airlines flights are on time. There are a couple of delays that we do know of from Delta Airlines. Now, airport officials say, as always, be sure to check your flight status before you head on over to the airport. And Queen City News anchor Derek Dellinger also on top of this story for us. He is on the other side of the airport. So, Derek, I know that you did have the chance to speak with some passengers on that flight, but first, tell us about your vantage point.
Well, our vantage point is specifically on top of one of the parking decks here. It's giving us more of a bird's eye view, and we are basically across the way from where Robin is. And you can take a look here. This is a bit more of a different view, basically, of the situation out here right now. You see flights are still taking off, but that runway still closed as they are working to basically get that plane off of the runway there. Now, that photographer Corey Epps has been watching most of this last few hours, but I had a chance to actually go downstairs just a little bit earlier into the terminal to get a sense of the mood there. We came across some passengers that were indeed on this flight, and that video you saw a moment ago of them getting off the plane without the gear, it actually came from one of those people. It was enough to cause some tense moments on that flight, though, something that they'd say the crew was incredibly professional and smooth about. Take a listen.
Initially, we were going down to land, and we got maybe 30, 50 feet from the runway, and then the pilot sped up and kind of took off again. He didn't want to land, and so that kind of was like the first sign of like, oh, something must be pretty wrong. And so as we come back around for the second time, I think everybody kind of set in a little bit more, and everybody's kind of looking around like, oh, what's actually the problem here?
He was able to land safely. It's so amazing how he landed the plane. I've been on planes that have not had a smooth landing with wheels. So the pilots were absolutely amazing.
So that goes to show exactly what was happening on that flight. A lot of people, they did say, yes, there were some freight nerves, but they say the flight crew handled it as best as they could under the circumstances. Everyone was able to get off safely without too much of an issue. As we mentioned, though, the plane's still out here. We're going to be keeping an eye on this, just like Robin is. We'll keep you up to date. We'll have another update coming up in just about 30 minutes. For now, we are live at the airport. Derek Dellinger, Queen City News.
Derek, thank you. Now for some context here, the plane involved in that emergency landing is a Boeing 717. Boeing engineers delivered it to AirTran Airways back in November of the year 2000. Delta Airlines began leasing this plane after AirTran merged with Southwest Airlines more than a decade ago. Delta is the world's largest operator of the Boeing 717. Airline reps say they have 64 of these two-engine planes in their fleet. Many of the jets are 2 decades old. It's actually part of a company strategy to operate older airliners. Workers maintain and upgrade them with new technology and equipment. The 717 is used on routes where it's most efficient. They're flown out of hub cities to mid-sized cities and places where other airlines have their hubs. Of course, there's still a lot to learn about this story, and we're going to stay on top of it for you. You can look for updates throughout the day right here on Queen City News and on our website, qcnews.com.